three filmmakers with nothing in common. They thought they had it all figured out. They don't just follow the movies, they make them. Alexander Pavlak, Mario Silvas, and Jamal Alexander are the makers on film.
What's up, Buttercup?
Good. What's up?
Not too much. Just reading up on the movie I watched for today.
What was your movie?
I won't tell you what it is, but I'll give you a hint. The American copyright on this movie lapsed in 1953. So I picked an old movie.
Remember how I said specifically it was 40 to 70?
I thought you said 20 to 70.
It was 40 to 70, but that, you know what? That's fine. That's fine.
Oh yeah, right.
You're probably going to school us on some really interesting trivia on it anyway, so it's going to turn out well anyway.
All right, I went a little older than I was supposed to, but it's a good film. It's believe me, it's pivotal and it's classic. So
Citizen Kane?
no,
It's a Wonderful Life?
no, you're way off. It's a German movie.
So you're watching German propaganda flicks?
Indirectly, yes, it is a propaganda film.
Huh.
It was not meant to be a propaganda film, but it did have a message of socialism to it, and apparently it was one of Hitler's and Goebbels' favorite films. So there is that.
Okay. Because it gets the 2 thumbs up from Hitler and Goebbels, I'm sure I don't like it already.
So, have you watched anything interesting lately? Anything new? Anything exciting? Any new movies?
You know what I just saw last night? The trailer for 999.
999?
You need to see that trailer.
Well, give me a second.
Okay.
Heather was telling me about this documentary that she saw called Deep Web about the Silk Road website and all the controversy with that. Do you know what that's about?
I don't know.
It is basically a Craigslist for drugs. You can go on there and you can buy whatever drugs you want. And the moderator is a guy called the Dread Pirate Roberts. And the FBI thinks they know who that guy is, but if you're familiar with The Princess Bride, for which the name is taken, it alludes to the fact that there is not just one person in charge. And this is his kind of whole thing, that he just moderates the site, that he doesn't really have anything to do with what happens with it, the original guy, or the guy they think is the original guy, and that he gave up being the Dread Pirate Roberts and passed that on to somebody else, just like they say happens in The Princess Bride. So it's this whole controversy about this guy's trial and how the FBI used hackers to find out what was going on and who these people were without getting any kind of warrants or permission from the courts to do this. So there's a lot of issue about whether they legally obtained any of the evidence that they had. Also, the judge was very biased against the defendant and would not allow the defending attorneys to really introduce any kind of evidence in their defense. 95% of everything that the defense had was inadmissible. So they're moving for like a mistrial and for a new trial for these people. So it's a very interesting story, and it's something that I want to see, but I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah, I'm really on the fence about that sort of, like cyber monitoring stuff like that. Like, yeah, I'd like to think that the government is responsible enough to like get that sort of metadata or to find or to have hackers like that and be responsible enough not to abuse that sort of thing. But then I've seen every other Michael or God, what's his name? Directed Any Given Sunday, Kennedy, and
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
yeah. Then I see Oliver Stone movies
Oliver
every
Stone.
now
Yeah,
and yeah, Oliver Stone movies every now and then I don't trust government so much.
yeah, it's I have because we've been watching a lot of um like conspiracy theory kind of documentaries, a lot of which surrounding 9/11 as of late. I mean, we watch the Kennedy stuff, we watch other things, but um, we've been watching some 9/11 stuff, and there are some things that happen that seem like the natural course of events, and there are some things that happen that seem very much like the government had a hand in it. They did something. They're not giving us the whole story. So, there's some things that I think, the government is just not telling us. And that could be because it's an ongoing investigation. And in a murder investigation, the police do not tell the press everything about all the evidence that they find. They keep some stuff back. So when somebody comes up and confesses it, they'll know if that person is really the guy who did it because they'll give the information that's not in the press. So you can see the government kind of doing that, but also on the other hand, like when they talk about the plane that crashed into the Pentagon, there are no real plane parts around the crash site. I mean, there's eyewitnesses that says the plane flew overhead, knocked down a bunch of street lamps and street lights, almost killed a taxi cab driver, and then the plane crashes into the Pentagon, but there's no plane. The plane somehow completely disintegrates without completely destroying the building. So it's like, what's that all about? And then there's the collapse of Tower 7, which was a building used by a lot of government agents, which wasn't really touched by any of the airplanes, was touched by very little debris, and had very small fires going on inside them. And it just doesn't seem like enough destruction to bring down the building. So I think that one, because it had government secrets in it, was probably detonated purposely. But we're never going to know that for sure, at least not for a very long time.
Huh. Like in 50 years or
Yes.
because we didn't know about uh, how the Vietnam War was the catalyst for it, like the attacking of a naval ship was a staged event or just a false event. God, I'm trying to remember the name. I think it was Nixon's administration that was part of that. But the catalyst that started the Vietnam War was a Vietnamese ship attacking a U.S. Navy ship, and then vice versa. And then that turned out to be all a hawk.
Yeah.
Like nothing, none of it was true, and we didn't know about that for like a good, you know, decade after.
Yeah.
So it's the sort of thing that, like in hindsight, we'd know about.
Well, it's one of those things that I'm sure there's probably some conspiracy theorist, saying that, government's not telling you everything. And that completely surrounded Vietnam anyway. But yeah, it's like we're just starting to get like information about Pearl Harbor, and we're kind of just starting to get more information about the Kennedy assassination. And it's like, sooner or later, you're right, probably in 50 years, when all the key players are dead, more information will come out about it. I mean, the government knew that Pearl Harbor was going to happen, and they did nothing to stop it because some of it was arrogant, some of it was that, we were in a depression, and they knew war would bring us out of it, so they let it happen. We needed an excuse to go to war.
It's a hell of a time to be able alive. Like if you think about it, 1930s and 20s is a depression straight into a world war.
Right. There's a documentary about the making of The Island of Dr. Moreau where they talk about Val Kilmer and how he acted on set. They talk about a lot of stuff, but they talk a little bit about him and how he acted on set, and he was kind of a dick.
Kind of. Didn't he like? I don't know if it was on that movie, but he usually requested like full body massages, like right before every take or something, or right before every scene.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know if they did it on that one, but he demanded rewrites, and he didn't want to, have too much. They wanted him for the main
Yeah,
protagonist,
yeah,
and
he was the main role, and then like at the last minute said, "You know what? I don't feel like doing as much as before.
yeah,
Give me something else."
yeah. So they gave him like the secondary, the supporting role, which I thought he did really good in. But and then what's his face, the Godfather, he was also kind of a dick and a diva in that movie too. Like how he had that little mini me guy who was dressed like him, and just this little dwarf or little person,
Yeah,
that he was not supposed to have that role. That little person was not supposed to have that role. There was actually a full size actor from wherever they shot. I think it was in New Zealand or whatever, who was supposed to have that role of the Godfather's, like, manservant or whatever, and um, Marlon Brando was just sitting there talking to this little guy, and he just loved him so much. He's like, "This is the guy. Fuck that other guy. This is the guy. You're gonna dress him just like me, and we're just gonna do everything together." And he demanded that little piano be made for the little guy to play it while he was playing the full size piano. And he insisted. He came to set one day dressed in the white makeup. He did that himself, and everybody was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he's all like, "I think my character would be wearing this." And he gets into position, and everybody's just like floored as to why he's doing this. So
uh,
it's like, and you hear that kind of stuff if you watch Heart of Darkness, the Apocalypse Now behind the scenes movie, that he did a lot of that stuff.
yeah, yeah. It was a very troubled set that
Mhm.
ended up being an incredible movie.
Yeah. Well, it's in part because of what he did, because he was supposed to be like fit, and he was supposed to be like he was supposed to be the Island of Dr. Monroe guy, Dr. Monroe, but fit and in Vietnam.
Yeah,
And when he showed up to set, he was less than fit, to the point where he was fat. And it's like,
he weighed like 300 pounds. He showed up, and God, I forgot what he said, but he said something that to the effect that, "Oh, I'll work around it."
yeah. And it was kind of one of those things. And then he's like, okay, so, Martin Scorsese's like, okay, so this is what we're going to do. And he would be all like, no, I don't like that.
That
He's
wasn't
like,
Scors. That wasn't Scorsese, was it?
wasn't it? I thought it was.
Apocalypse Now wasn't Scorsese.
Uh, uh, Apocalypse Now. I'm sorry, Francis Ford Coppola.
Okay, there you go.
I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. So, Francis Ford Coppola, and this is like one of his first movies. So, big name actor saying, no, we're not going to do that. That sounds cliche. You kind of take him at his word for it. So he scrambles for a second idea, and he's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And Brando's like, no, I don't like that either. What else you got? And he did this like 4 or 5 times until they were just like, until he just walked up to like his cameraman and said, I don't care what the fuck he does, just get something on film. We'll figure it out later. And that's where he does that whole thing where you just see his face, and he's doing this weird crazy talk kind of thing, and he says, I ate a bug, which is like the famous line from that whole movie. And it's like they just shot something that he did, and then they're like, okay, he's crazy, this is just gonna be crazy ramblings that he does.
Oh my God! At that point, why not just get somebody else? You know?
At that point, you're in Vietnam, or wherever they shot, and you have everything there, and
Right, but a plane ticket is basically all you. A plane ticket and maybe the salary that you were going. Well, no, you could have just taken Brando's money and given it to someone else.
I'm sure Brando had a contract or a clause in his contract that even if he didn't shoot any frames of the movie, he still got paid for it.
Yeah, pay the guy out and just save your movie. Like get, even if it's an unknown at that point,
Yeah, but on the
pay somebody scale.
hand, are you going to be a first-time director who's going to fire Marlon Brando, who, one of the biggest names in acting, even though he's crazy and everybody knows it?
Yes, you know why? Makes a statement about who you are.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing where the statement is, okay, you're fired. We're going to get a different director and keep Marlon Brando. How the statement is, how dare you do that to Marlon Brando? That's the statement you make.
Like this, no, the statement is, you know what? I'm committed to this. I don't care that he is Marlon Brando. He didn't live up to his end. I'm getting somebody else
Yeah, well,
because I got the balls to do that.
like I said in editing class for Ninja Quest, sometimes you have to polish a turd.
Hey, you know that Brando wasn't the only difficult actor on that set. Duvall shows up for the first day of the shoot. They ask him, "Are you ready? And have you read the script?" And he goes, "No, I haven't read the script." Well, what are you gonna do? Well, I thought I'd just wing it. And that's where I love the smell of napalm in the morning comes from.
Was that Duvall who said that, or was that Dennis Hopper? I heard that was Dennis Hopper who said that. But he didn't say the napalm in the morning thing, but he said that he didn't read the script, that he was just going to wing it.
I think it was Duvall,
You, you know,
who by the way I've been reading because I was as part of the original like old movies. I
hmm
was going to watch the original True Grit. I
hmm
ended up watching The Quiet Man,
hmm
but apparently on the original True Grit, it was just a troubled set to begin with. John Wayne did not like the girl that he didn't. Yeah, he did not like the girl that was playing Haley Stanfield's role in that original, the young kid. And apparently Duvall got into shoddy matches with the director and almost got into a fist fight with John Wayne while on set.
Wow, that boggles my mind that actors act like that off camera. That they that I understand that they have talent and they get paid an obnoxious amount of money, and that kind of feeds your ego. But still, on the other hand, I mean, you kind of see how sports players, get that same kind of ego and think they can't do any wrong. Is that, you treat them like gods and you give them all this money for having what is essentially nothing actually redeemable. I mean, who cares if you can, throw a ball into a basket, or, hit a ball with a stick, or hit a ball with your foot, and who cares really if you can act like something else going on? Why do we give these people so much accolades for these kind of things?
Because that's how much we value entertainment now.
This is absolutely true, and it's a little on the sad part, but when the economy dips like it has in the recent years, um, people look for escapism, so they go to more sporting events, they go to more movies, they invest more money in these things because they want to get away from the lives that they have.
Very true. I can relate to all of that.
Yeah. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You want to see the movies, but yet you make monsters out of it.
Yeah, really at this point, who the fuck is Robert Duvall back in 1962?
In '62,
I think it was 62.
when they did Apocalypse.
No, no, I mean when he does True Grit.
Oh, when he
At
does
this
True Grit.
yeah, at this point, who the fuck is Robert Duvall? Why are you trying to call out John Wayne on set? It's John fucking Wayne. Have you seen 10 years?
No.
10 years was basically a Channing Tatum produced drama where it's him and a bunch of actors of similar age pretending they were all classmates and coming. That's a surprisingly good cast actually. It's Channing Tatum, Anthony Mackie, Chris Pratt. God, what's his name?
What's this called again?
10 years.
10 years?
Yeah,
Oh, like a 10-year reunion. I gotcha.
yeah. It was a 10-year reunion they were all going to. And God, what's his name? He's playing Apocalypse in the next X-Men movie.
I gotta look that up. I know I can see the face, but I don't know.
It's got
Um,
Rosario Dawson. It was a really good cast actually. Justin Long.
oh, Justin Long's good. Um, Oscar Isaac.
Yes.
playing Apocalypse in the next film.
But Tenure has all of those guys, and then some. I think I can't remember. Have you seen Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist?
Yes, I have.
So, which in itself is a great movie, and we'll talk about it at a later date. But you remember the drunk friend, the blonde?
Oh yeah.
She's in this as Chris Pratt's wife.
Nice. I'll have to check this out.
It was so. I, but he's an idiot in that too. Have you seen Take Me Home Tonight?
No, I haven't seen that.
He's an idiot in that too. Have you ever seen any episode of Parks and Rec ever?
No, but I actually kind of want to.
He's an idiot in that episode. Whichever
Yeah.
episode you see.
Yeah. I heard about his character. He comes in as kind of a dick who is somebody's boyfriend, isn't he? And then he becomes a cast member, and they start making him more likable.
He's not so much a dick in the first one. He's just, I think they hired him as kind of like I think they meant for him to be sort of like the jock in high school.
Yeah.
He's not overtly a dick. He's not trying to be mean, but eventually, sort of as the show goes on, they sort of figure out who Chris Pratt is, and then they tailor the character to him.
Yeah.
As an idiot. By the way, I say none of this disparagingly towards Chris Pratt. I've been calling him an idiot this whole time, but he has the one role. I look at him, and I don't see intelligence.
He was smart-ish in the Jurassic World movie. He was very much an idiot in Space Avengers.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else he was in. You're absolutely right. He did play an idiot character in Parks and Rec. He was in Moneyball. He had a small part in Moneyball. He was actually really good in that. He's in Her. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. He was in God, what is it? The one about catching Osama.
Zero Dark 30. Yep, there he is.
Yeah.
I,
Damn good movie.
It is a good movie. I don't know what character he played, so obviously he did a very good acting job because I can't pick him out in a lineup in that.
He was one of the SEALs.
Yeah, I know, but I just don't know which one he was. He was unrecognizable to me, which is the mark of a good actor because he completely took on that character. Unlike, Star-Lord, where it's Chris Pratt, dancing around wearing a Walkman.
You know what I think it is, and because he was in actual real life like a jock in high school, I think he can only play. For me, he can only play those roles because I don't feel like him taking on I can't see him playing an attorney or a doctor, but I can definitely see him playing he can be a professional athlete in Moneyball. He can be a Navy SEAL in what do you call it, Zero Dark 30. And really, when I look at, I haven't seen the movie yet.
Yeah.
But when I look at Jurassic Park, yeah, I can visualize him sort of being like the guy, the outdoorsy type. I can't see him in, like he's an idiot in a good way, in my opinion. Like it makes for him, he's an idiot in the way that John Wayne was an idiot. Like that doesn't necessarily mean he's not insightful or intelligent. There's a limit to where he goes in life, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a college degree in that guy's future.
No, not so much.
We should make it a point to watch Nick and Nora, by the way, as a part of the show.
Well, you actually watched that for one of the episodes.
Did I?
Yeah, it was for other movies that took place in New York.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, I could see like Chris Pratt being like a college, you said lawyer. I could see Chris Pratt being a lawyer, as in My Cousin Vinny kind of lawyer.
You feel like a fake one?
I don't know if he was fake, but he just wasn't very good. He was kind of the shyster lawyer, the like.
I don't know what you're talking about, cousin. I don't know what you're talking about. Vinny was great in that movie. Didn't he win the case?
He did win the case, but he won the case because, not because of his ability to be a lawyer, but because of his supporting people, his girlfriend who knew about cars, and the fact that she could identify the fact that the two cars looked alike, but they were completely different. That was the
Well,
only reason why he won the case.
you know what? You can narrow down the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress to that one monologue she has in that movie,
Yeah,
Marissa Tomei.
yeah.
That long monologue about the car. Okay, fine. I will give you this Academy Award just because it is fucking impressive that you can get that done in one shot.
One shot, and she goes from being like really, really mad to like really, really happy because she sees what he's trying to get out of her. Because she's all pissed off at him because for some reason or the other, who knows about women what they get mad about, but she's all mad at him at the beginning, and they even do the joke, I want to treat her like a hostile witness because she's being all like mean and stuff, and then she kind of slowly comes out of that and does this wonderful transformation into being happy and liking him again, and you're right. That is the one scene that made people take note of who she was and what she could do.
I wish she got better work. Marissa Tomei. I like her. You know what?
Yeah,
You know what? Her next big thing, or the last really big thing I saw her in, The Wrestler.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, you haven't seen The Wrestler, dude?
It's on the list. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Dude.
All right. So we're almost an hour in. So you wanna talk about your movie since this is your
Sure,
category?
sure. I was trying to figure out what movie I wanted to watch, and I figured I'd do a John Wayne thing because he's John Wayne.
Right.
And looking through the list, there was the True Grits, there was the Searchers, there was Rio Bravo, there was the Red Trail or the Red River, Red Dragon.
I think it's the Red River.
Red River.
I think
Okay, yeah. And I looked at all of that, and they all had something in common. They were all westerns. So I figured, let me pick another genre. He does a ton of military movies. So he has a bunch of those. I said, okay, let me find the oddity. And I did in The Quiet Man. He doesn't play it's not a western. It's not a military flick. It's one of the few times he doesn't play like one of those figures. He's a former boxer, kills a guy in the ring, retires because of it, moves back to his native Ireland, which was only in for about a year or so, like a few years or so when he was born. And it's basically a romantic comedy at that point.
Interesting. Now, is this done kind of contemporary, modern times for whenever it was made?
Yes, it was very much contemporary for the time.
Because he doesn't do a lot of contemporary movies. He does a lot like period pieces like Cowboy or World War II kind of stuff.
He very true. He actually, in my research for this, it seems like the only time he does do contemporary stuff, and ironically enough, is when he does romantic comedies.
Yeah. Well, he did one like cop film. I think it was called like McHugh or McClintock, something like that, where
Yeah.
it was contemporary.
Yeah, McHugh was his answer to Dirty Harry because he wanted the role of Dirty Harry, but they thought he was too old.
Right. So he makes his own Dirty Harry.
Yeah, basically. And so I'm kind of glad I got this because it was a study on just how personalities, film personalities, kind of like make movies at certain times. Because it's not just him there; it's him and Maureen O'Hara, who who co-stars with him in a bunch of movies. Right. But there was such like presence to the both of them. Maureen O'Hara is the original tough girl of film. Like she's probably one of the few women who could hold their own on screen with John Wayne. And so the whole thing is them arguing back and forth, and that seems to be their sort of thing whenever they're on screen together. And I remember thinking that John Wayne's sense of humor is a lot like John Wayne's personality. It's one note.
Okay.
Well, it's one note in that it all has to be tough. Everything about him has to be tough. The end sequence of this movie is like a eight to 10 minute fist fight where they take breaks to actually have whiskey. They throw back a pint, compliment each other on their fighting prowess, and then go back to hitting each other. And there's no actual end of the fight. It at some point it cuts to the two of them helping each other back to their house. Yeah, and John Wayne and the guy he's fighting in the whole thing. Oh God, what's his, an older actor, long since passed. Hang on, it's a quiet man.
Yeah, it helps to have IMDb open during these shows.
Yeah. It's getting in the way of my making this the laziest show on TV, on the internet, but yeah. Maureen O'Hara, and I think it was Barry Fitzgerald. Barry Fitzgerald. There you go, Victor McLaglen. Big dude. Guy who looks imposing, looks like he could throw fists with John Wayne if he had to. But again, it's hard to find actors nowadays who have that same sort of ability that John Wayne did. You kind of go to see John Wayne as opposed to seeing the movie. Like somebody that's that iconic in these ways. Like we were talking about Sam Jackson earlier.
Right. Yeah.
There is not another Sam Jackson in the world.
No.
Unfortunately, we probably will remember him as fondly as we'll remember John Wayne because I don't know why, but John Wayne kind of carried over. But you don't have those actors nowadays. That's what I thought when watching this movie.
Well, John Wayne is like a character actor who hit it big. Because he really does like either the tough guy cowboy or the tough guy military. That was his two big roles. So he was basically a character actor who just kind of hit it big, who just, for some reason people fell in love with. And on paper, the way he walks, the way he talks, you wouldn't think that he would have been a big star. And here he does it, and he does it very well.
Have you actually seen The Quiet Man before?
No, I have not.
It's not that bad. It's basically the plot is the Maureen O'Hara is the big guy's sister, and John Wayne shows up, buys back his old farm that the brother wanted. Then he meets the sister, wants to marry her. The brother gets in the way a little bit, is refusing to pay the dowry, basically.
Yeah.
Which Maureen O'Hara only wants because it's for symbolism's sake. They even burn the damn dowry when they finally get it, and that's right before the fist fight, which is the best part of the movie. Interesting note: the studio told the director John Ford. Is it John Ford? Yeah, John Ford.
It is Ford.
That you have to keep this at 2 hours or under.
Mm-hmm.
So he shoots the whole movie, gets to the 2 hour mark, and it's right at the beginning of the fist fight. So he goes in, shows them the movie, and then pauses it right at that point. Like right at the beginning. Okay, that's 2 hours worth. What do you want to do? And they said, keep playing it. But they keep playing it.
Nice. Kind of a testament to his ability to tell a story. If he can keep your attention for 2 hours and still have you want more.
Yeah. John Ford was an interesting character in himself. God, they made movies so differently back then. I mean, like just from a technical standpoint too. Like John Ford, directed like a lot of films.
Right.
Like I'm sure they just went out for 6 weeks and came back with a film. Who does that anymore?
People like Robert Rodriguez, who are the director and the cameraman and the cinematographer. Because you don't have to tell a bunch of people what you want. You just go out, you tell the actor what you want, and then where you're going to be, and then you have him figure it out. You do 2 takes, 3 takes, and then you move on.
Yeah, look, in a 50-year career, he did 140 films. That's a little under 3 films a year.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he slowed down in his old age, so I'm sure there was years where he was cranking out 4 or 5 of those.
Probably, yeah. But it's just amazing because, editing alone can take quite some time. But yeah. Does it say? Oh, yeah. IMDb no longer tells you how many films are in the list, but yeah, that is a long fucking list. So the last film was in 1976.
Jesus Christ.
hmm
Wait, what was that movie?
The last film he's credited with is a documentary called Chesty, A Tribute to a Legend. And then right before that, 1966, he did a movie called Seven Women.
Seven Women might be something of note. I'm trying to remember. It sounds like a very familiar title. 140 films.
Yeah, that's
Narrated by John Wayne. The last one. Hang on. Ford's last feature film.
Seven Women starred Anne Bancroft. Um,
Isn't it a little weird that his last film doesn't have his iconic star in it? In fact, the last film the two of them did together was Donovan's Reef, another one of those romantic comedies.
that was in '63.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's when did he died in '73. Wait, he died in '73, but he had a movie come out in '76. That's
I'm
interesting.
sure. I'm sure it was a documentary about him.
He's credited as directing it though, so this must have been something he probably
Huh.
did and then just put it in a vault and then somebody found and yeah, maybe it is about him. It's got him and John Wayne in it, and then Lewis B. Puller.
I think John Wayne narrates it.
Hmm, I don't know. A tribute documentary to the most decorated U.S. Marine General Lewis B. Chesty Puller. Maybe, yeah. He is a narrator, John Wayne.
Yeah, I'm looking at not the wiki on it, and it just says narrated by John Wayne.
Yeah, but John Ford was in it, plays himself. So
Because he was there. He was actually in. He actually served in World War II, and a little bit of trivia on John Wayne. One of the big regrets of his life was that he wasn't a draft dodger. He wasn't eligible for the draft at 34.
yeah,
You could only be like 28 was the age limit, I believe.
hmm
But other actors had managed to do it, notably Jimmy Stewart.
right.
He was 5 years older than the limit, and then actually used his star power to get into the military.
Well, Elvis Presley did that too. He got drafted and he went. He didn't like try to use his abilities or his pull to get out of it.
Yeah, and so John Wayne, being the fake tough guy on screen, it was always one of his big regrets that he never served. Well, it turns out that he may not have been a draft dodger, but he was always kind of dodging the war because he would write John Ford like almost weekly, saying, "Just one more film, and I'll come join your unit. I'll come be part of your team." I think John Ford was just like a documentary filmmaker on during the war, though.
Probably.
Yeah, but yeah, he would write and write and write and never follow through with any of it. And then later in life, he would complain about how his biggest regret was that he never served during World War II.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that because especially afterwards, how pivotal of a time that was for America's industry and just the world in general.
Yeah.
So sex hygiene. That's one of Ford's movies.
Sex hygiene. What year was that?
That was 1942. This is probably a military film. Oh, you can watch it on the IMDb archives. It's probably a military film that was that all the soldiers had to watch to prevent them from getting some sort of STD while overseas. Probably teaching them how to put on a condom.
Are we gonna address the fact that it actually has George Reeves in it too?
Does it?
Yeah.
George Reeves. Yeah, it does. Superman himself as a pool player. Pool player number one. Probably his very first gig.
To be the actor that him to have to be the one with the syphilis.
Crying syphilis victim number one.
uh, is that how he's credited on IMDb? Because they're a lot, nicer about it on Wikipedia. It's just a soldier, 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 pool player, soldier, soldier.
No, he's just credited as pool player number one.
Yeah, there you go. That's kind of like that episode of Friends where Joey has to do a herpes commercial.
Yeah.
Oh, George Reeves looked really different back when he was a kid.
Oh, I'm sure. Let's see, when was he born? In 1914, and this was in 1942. So he was like, what, under 30 at the time?
28.
Yeah.
And they got 30 minutes worth of this too.
Was it 30 minutes?
Yep.
Yep.
Who's Robert Lowry?
It sounds familiar. And then Robert Shaw sounds familiar too.
And so,
Well, he was in, Robert Lowry was in McClintock.
I love how on IMDb they call the Sex Agent an anti-VD propaganda film.
Yep.
That's a public service, not anti-anything propaganda.
Well, it is anti-STD.
Right, we should all be anti-STD.
Well, I mean, propaganda film is just something that, promotes one thing, that, singles something out. So, like, Reefer Madness would be considered, propaganda. Or, anything, like the film that I watched this week can be considered propaganda,
Hey, before we go any further, I just like the wiki on Robert Lowry. So Robert Lowry was the second man to play Batman in the Batman and Robin serials.
Oh, okay.
So in the syphilis public ad, you have both Batman and Superman in warning you about syphilis.
That's quite the
The irony, the coincidence.
coincidence. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
It'd be funny if Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill did like a PSA about that too.
About syphilis.
Uh,
That would be amazing.
Awesomeness.
Mhm.
All right, what did you watch?
So I watched. I pulled a Mario and I misunderstood the directions. So I watched a movie that was slightly out of the time frame that you gave. You gave 40 to 70, and I watched a movie that was 1927. But it is a pivotal movie in movie making. It's not the first science fiction movie, but it's one of the first and one of the more pivotal ones. It's called Metropolis, and it's a movie that has, due to circumstances beyond its control, it's kind of stayed in the limelight for 88 years. It started out, the original version of this film was 2.5 hours long. And when it came over to America, the studios, for a multitude of reasons, cut an hour out of this film. And part of it was because it's kind of propaganda towards socialism. It's a very long runtime, 2.5 hours. People say 90 minutes is the perfect movie runtime. So anything over that, anything over an hour and a half is threatening to lose your audience. Um, there was just a lot of things. A lot of people didn't believe that Americans at this time would appreciate kind of a German art house film. So there's a lot going on with it that the distributors in America felt they needed to recut it. So it got cut down to like an hour and a half, and then slowly over the years they find a little bit more footage. They'll find a print that has another 10 minutes. They'll find a print that has another 20 minutes. So in 2002, um, they had where is it? In 2002 they had 120 minutes, so 2 hours worth of this film. Um, and they reissued it, and they did a lot of stuff with this. They put it out on DVD. A pretty popular DJ um, put a new soundtrack to it and took it around. I actually saw that version at the Detroit Museum of Art. They did a showing of this DJ's. It wasn't a recut. He replaced the music with more techno music.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool kind of thing. And I had seen the movie prior to that, so I saw its original like 90-minute version, and then I come out and they show the 2 hour version, which was really kind of cool. And they had the different music to it, which to me it went on a little too long with the techno music. I think its original score is actually much better. And then in like 2008, they found a 16 millimeter print in Buenos Aires that was the complete movie, but a portion of it was so badly deteriorated that they couldn't use it. They couldn't get anything useful out of it. So this is the entire movie sans about 5 minutes worth of material. And this is probably a lot of people, a lot of experts are conceding that this is probably going to be the um, most complete version of this movie that we will ever get. But then again, they said that about the 2002 version. So this is the version I watched, the 2008. It's about 150 minutes, about 149 or 148 minutes, something like that. So it's the story about um, two classes. It takes place 100 years after the movie was made. It was made in 1926, debuted in 1927, but it takes place in 2026. And it's the story about how below the Earth's surface there's basically slaves or worker class who toil away making sure that the world runs, and then on top of the surface there's an intellectual class who are the rich and famous, who are the people who enjoy the spoils of the worker class. So it's kind of in a way a dig on capitalism, whereas you have the two classes, the small percentage of people who have all the wealth, and then the large percentage of people who do all the work. So it's part of the reasons why it gets cut down. So throughout the course of the movie, the guy who is basically in charge of the city of Metropolis, or the Metropolis that they refer to, I don't know if the city ever actually gets a name or not. Um, the guy who basically runs the place, uh, the Mr. Burns, if you will, of this movie, his son ends up falling for a woman who is basically the babysitter of all the children of all the workers underneath the ground. So there's kind of a Romeo and Juliet vibe that goes through here. And then there is a mad scientist who also falls in love with this woman, Helen, I think her name is. She's just referred to as Hel, Hel, but I think it's short for Helen. So it so the mad scientist creates a girl robot in her image and uses her to kind of she was speaking out to the workers, telling them that kind of making a union out of them, telling them that they're going to get a mediator and mediate with the intellectual class and get better working conditions for them. So she was kind of trying to start a union. And then this guy, the scientist, creates this robot to kind of take her place, and he kind of wants to kidnap her and keep her as like a love slave. And then the rich guy's son kind of thwarts all that. So there is a lot that this movie has inspired throughout the years, like the robot that we see, and we see her for a little bit as a robot form, and then she changes shape into a woman form, into this actress. So it is credited that Spielberg modeled C-3PO after the robot form of this woman. You can kind of say that, Terminator 3, the Terminator series in general, but Terminator 3, where the female robot is kind of inspired by, uh, and they don't even call her a robot in the film; they call her a man machine, a machine made by man. But the Terminatrix is kind of. Sorry, give me a second.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I moved into a new place. It's an apartment, and sometimes the dogs hear what the neighbors are doing and they go all ballistic.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You're good.
Okay, so yeah, you can say that this movie inspired the Terminatrix. It inspired to some degree the Blade Runner with its kind of futuristic look about how the world runs.
Yeah.
The guys who made Superman were so impressed with this movie that they named the city in which Superman lives after the movie. There's a person with a robotic arm in here who was somewhat the inspiration for the character in Doctor Strangelove, the character of Doctor Strangelove. So, this movie um, that that doesn't even have sound to it, it was so inspirational to a lot of people who came after it. And, even to say like Steven or yes, not Spielberg, but George Lucas, to say that George Lucas, 30, 40 years later, 50 years later, saw some value in this movie to pay homage to it by making a character like him, like her, like it. So it's like, this was maybe not an important film as in its message, but an important film as in, what it did for people and how it made them feel. So it's to me, it's very interesting. I've seen this a number of times, so it was nice to see like an extended version of it. And the thing about the director, the director, as I read into this, was very much like Kubrick, where it took him like a year and a half almost. It took him like 300 plus days to shoot the film. He would spend weeks. He'd spend a week on like simple scenes just because he wants it a certain way. And the downside is that he hired a bunch of non-movie actors to be in his movie. So not only does he have to train them to act, but get them to do what he wants.
Huh. I'm reading about Fritz Lang while you're telling me all of this too.
Um, yeah, so like I said, this movie was one of the favorite movies of Hitler's and of Goebbels, the Hitler's propaganda guy. And Goebbels even told Fritz Lang that, who is of Jewish descent, Fritz. He told Fritz that, we decide who's Jewish and who's not, and we'll give you a pass because you made such a great film. And with that very night, after whatever shindig he was at, he went home, packed his bags, and moved to Paris. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, just looking at a lot because I haven't seen the film, but just looking at a lot of and some of the concepts you just told me, like the guy with the one robotic arm,
mhm,
a cyborg, basically.
yeah.
This film is really, really before its time.
It is, and it does a lot of visual effects, and this was before computers. This was before matte paintings. This was before everything. These guys pioneered some of this stuff. Like they did animation, like stop motion animation in some of their shots. Like they do a huge shot, an epic shot of the city, huge, Tower of Babel like buildings sprouting out of the ground, and they have like cars driving around and a monorail driving around and airplanes flying around. And this is all, stop motion photography on top of what is basically a model. So, and then they used a lot of like camera tricks, like double exposures or triple exposures or multiple exposures. And they had to do all that stuff in camera. So they would shoot something, rewind the film, and then shoot something else over it. And did that several times. They did that like 3 or 4 times for some cases. So these guys had to work really, really hard to do what we can do in a computer in a couple of days, if you want it to look nice in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, give me a second.
Okay.
So, like, the director was ahead of his time, and the thing was, he went to New York City in 1924 for some sort of film festival. And as he was getting off the boat, he was just marveled at the city because it like Metropolis, it's sprawling, it's, high skyscrapers, everything's like concrete and steel and glass. And he looked at his wife, who I don't know if she was a writer or not, but he looked at his wife and he's like, "This is what this city is saying to me. Write the story in a book, then we're going to make a movie out of it." So like, from the beginning, he knew exactly what he wanted, and it took him a year to shoot it. So God only knows what pre-production was like, or what post-production was like. Post-production was probably pretty easy because, he did everything in camera, so they didn't really have to do anything after the fact. But post-production must have been hell to set all this up and to get people to convince them that this stuff that has never been done before can work. It must have been a good year, 2 years just to do post-production or pre-production on this. And it's an amazing film. And this guy, after he did this film in Germany and after he got, accolades from the wrong people, finally makes his way to America and does American films. But it's like, it's for what they had at the time, they were pioneers, and it amazes me to this day what they've done. And there are some things in this movie that look better than a lot of stuff that has come after it. Like the stop motion photography that they've done in this does not look like stop motion photography. It looks like something actually moving across screen. Because stop motion can be like a little choppy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it moves across screen very fluidly. So he did, and kind of when they did The Matrix, which in some regards The Matrix takes inspiration from this. At the very least, the way the second two Matrix sequels look, the real world, kind of takes inspiration from this movie. And when The Matrix does their bullet time, it's essentially stop motion photography. Because what they do is they take a bunch of still cameras, set them around the person, they set them off in sequence, and then they put those stills into your editing program and make basically use those as your frames of footage. And then they have to go in, and it gets very choppy, so they have to go in and do a computer generated animation around that to make it more fluid. So basically, what these guys did with just stop motion photography is just as good as what they did in the Matrix movies. It's 70 years later, and most of what comes between that is almost not as good as what this film did. Almost. I mean, you have stuff here and there where they really kind of spent money on it. Like Jurassic Park was really good. I'm never going to say that the original Jurassic Park did not look good for its time, and still today looks pretty damn good.
Yeah, it holds up well.
Yeah, and in today when you watch it, you can kind of see a little bit of the outline where the green screen was, where they had to superimpose stuff. But still, if you just grab a bowl of popcorn and watch Jurassic Park, it still looks really, really good for its time.
Yeah.
And it looks good for today's standards too. And even the other two, like the middle two Jurassic Park movies, kind of went backwards with their digital effects. The
Well, it's a little harder to do the to do the T-Rex running through a city because of all the lights and the bright colors of it.
This is true. This is true. The T-Rex, though, some of it was puppeteering, which is you.
Yeah, close-ups were puppeteering.
They had a full size T-Rex where they're doing the thing with the flares in the first Jurassic Park, and the thing is kind of like poking around the uh, the SUVs. That's a full size model. That's a puppet. And then it switches to computer generated, or it switches to a different shot before it moves. But yeah, some of that is a full size puppet made by Sam Winston, who did the Terminators
Yeah.
for the first three movies, or the first two, something like that, and who did a lot of special effects like that. And yeah, they it's it just amazes me sometimes what people who really put their mind to it can do with. But on the other hand too, this guy's budget was 5 million marks, which back then was a lot of money, and it equates to about $200 million in today's money. So he basically made Titanic at the time.
Yeah, I'm looking at I found a version of it on YouTube that I'm watching right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's and there's a lot of like symbolism in it. Like the workers are all in the same clothes. They're dark, they're drab. Whereas when you go see the intellectual, they kind of look like they're in like tennis outfits. Like they're very light colored, light grays, whites. They're basically having sexy parties, like Stewie would say from Family Guy. Um, they're
Sexy parties.
yeah, they're just yeah. Stewie he does this thing where he's like, it's time for a sexy party, and he puts on like a captain's hat, and like four or five like scantily clad women will come,
Okay,
and he'll run
yeah,
around.
I think I remember that. All right.
Yeah. So that's kind of what they're doing here. At one point, these they're trying to find a woman who will entertain the rich guy's kid, which is very much something that happens in today's day and age. So there's a couple of women there who like are only wearing like a mesh top, like a see-through top. Like it's like a like lace or like a doily or something. So there's like flower print over like their nipples and stuff. But if they move in the right way, you can see boob, you can see nipple. So like 1927, there's these topless women running around, being very decadent for trying to entice this one guy, who's basically a Kardashian at this point, because he's not really contributing anything to society. He's just the son of a very powerful man. So it's like, when you look into it, you see that this guy really kind of saw how the world was going to be. He might have over dramatized it a bit, but I mean, kind of it's how it is. And there's kind of a message of machines taking over work for people, which happens in today's day and age. Like, we have robots who build cars, jobs that, 30 years ago back in the 70s, 40 years ago back in the 70s, that, people had to do on their own. And then the Japanese come around and made a robotic arm that can weld, a car chassis together with better precision than a person can, and do it 24 hours a day. And a guy gets, shit canned for it.
Yeah.
And yet somehow we don't have to pay that robot, but automobiles cost more.
Well, they're gonna say it's the quality.
Yeah. But also, if you really, really think about this, the robot in this film, and this is like basically the first real robot ever shown in a movie. It's a female robot. So obviously this really kind of inspires the Japanese culture post World War II, because every Japanese man basically wants to create a sex robot.
I'm sure that's not remotely true, but
Well, you're right. There are some, American nerds who try to make female robots.
okay, there you go.
But if you ever watch, do you ever watch MythBusters?
Not really.
Oh, well,
I've seen the occasional thing that catches my attention, like the Jaws episode.
okay. So one of the guys on the show is Grant Imahara. He was at one point the official operator of R2D2 for the prequels. Um, he's very into robotics. He does a lot of like robotics for movies and stuff. Um, he knows his way, and his favorite thing is to build a robot for the show to do one thing or another. So they had him hooked up to a lie detector at one point, and somebody asked him the question if he ever tried or inspired to or wants to build a female robot, and he had to say yes to that because otherwise we would have known that he was lying. And he is of Asian descent, so I'm just saying
Okay.
he's
All
nerdy
right.
and Asian, so
You're coming into that age where the subtle racism starts. Like old guys are just like racist as hell. You're coming to that transition period.
yeah, yeah. I will be the guy from Gran Turismo or Gran Torino. I'm sure very shortly.
Uh, yeah, I'm looking at some of the footage from Metropolis. Just some of the sets on it are amazing.
Oh yeah, it's they had uh, they had a huge sound set to work in. You know, they made impressive sets. They and to make sure that the actors, you know, the workers felt oppressed and felt, you know, in pain. They would do takes over and over again. He would keep the temperature in the sound studio very low, so they would always be freezing. So they would always kind of be, you know, very worn down, very downtrodden. So, you know, there's a lot of method acting there too. But yeah, like I said, this guy felt very much like the forerunner to Alfred Hitchcock or to the other guy who did The Shining. He just, you know, Kubrick. He just felt like one of those guys who either didn't think highly of his actors or knew exactly what he wanted and just didn't stop until he got that.
We're not tools. You can't do that to us.
Well, in some way you are a tool. You're the vessel in which the director tells the story. And
No,
yes, you're
no, no, no. I am the story. You are crafting the background, sir.
that is one way of looking at it. It's the wrong way, but it's definitely a way of looking at it.
I think it's the only way of looking at it. And this is the argument that goes on between an actor and a director.
This is very true. I mean, if you look at it, it's the actor who, you know, basically has final say over the script, over, you know, the takes that are used, you know, the editing. He puts the story together. Like I said, you are the vessel in which the story is told. And in a movie setting, it's more true that it's the director's medium. If you go into like stage work, that's more of an actor's medium because once you're out on stage, nobody can tell you or stop you from doing whatever it is you want to do. And then TV is always considered a producer's medium because you have to have continuity from episode to episode. And you have different directors coming in to do different episodes, but you have to have them do it the way you want to do it. But yeah, I mean, like the story on stage is told through the actors. I mean, the directors give you suggestions and show you how to do things, especially around the sets for the best dramatic uh,
Effect.
effects. Thank you for the best dramatic effects that you can get. But it really is an actor's medium because once the curtain goes up, you can do whatever it is you damn well please.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Birdman really kind of shows that you know because Ed Norton is that kind of actor who starts fucking with all the other actors. So once the curtain goes up, you know, even though Michael Keaton's the director of the play, once the curtain goes up, he can't stop Ed Norton from doing whatever it is Ed Norton's doing.
Ed Norton's like that in real life too. So
I think they kind of drew from who they really are, because Birdman is essentially Batman, and the way the character and the actor or the way the character and the character revere that previous character, that Birdman character, is kind of how I've heard Michael Keaton reveres the Batman character that he played so long ago.
Keaton was Batman twice, right?
That is correct, and almost a third time. They actually were going to do a third Batman, but what's his face, the director, Tim Burton did not like the suggestions that the studio was giving. The studio wanted a more kid-friendly Batman, and Tim Burton did not want to do that. So he quit, and when he quit, Michael Keaton went with him.
Allow me to point out that all of Tim Burton's movies are kid friendly. They're like horror genres that have been neutered, and they've just taken the look of it.
Yeah, but the studio wanted to sell toys, and they still sold toys with, Batman and Batman Returns. I mean, it's not like they didn't do that, but it was a very dark tone, and Batman killed people. He killed the Joker I mean, you could say that the Joker let go, but he could have done more to save the Joker too. And they set that up for him to kill the Joker with the Joker killing Batman's parents in that story, which is not the way it went in the real story, but for the sake of the movie, that's what they did, and you can kind of understand that. And he tried to redeem himself a little bit in Batman Returns when he tried to stop Selina Kyle from killing Max Schreck, but he failed at that. And really, he didn't try that hard. He,
Eh,
he might as well have been sitting in a recliner with a newspaper saying the lines, "No, wait, stop, don't."
yeah.
And
No. Wait. Stop.
yeah, and he
No.
didn't want Selena Kyle to kill Max Schreck because he didn't want her to carry that burden, not because he didn't think Max Schreck deserved to live or should be brought to justice. He was trying to save Selena in that more than he was trying to save Max Schreck, and he did that in more of a selfish way because he had kind of a thing for her.
As you're saying that, I'm just remembering the scene now where he has the six shooter.
Oh, the Joker?
No, Max Shrek walking at the end, and he just starts shooting at Catwoman, this Selena Kyle, and
Yes,
she's just counting down her lives.
yes. That was a good scene.
Yeah,
See, Tim Burton did a really good job with that, and they wanted, like I said, the studio wanted something more childlike and more kid friendly and more campy and more toy able, or to be able to sell more toys. So Tim Burton didn't really want to do that, and that's when they brought in Joel Schumacher, who completely went batshit crazy, pun intended, and did that day glow kind of thing that he did.
yeah,
And it's like the first two Batmans that Burton did were felt very real. Like there was a lot of fantasy and a lot of like gothic imagery in the city itself, and some things that just didn't feel like they made sense. But the characters themselves felt real. Whereas in the Joel Schumacher ones, they felt more cartoonish. They felt more they felt more like that 60s TV show than they did like a movie about, a more modern contemporary movie.
yeah. Is it well? I, where do they hold their place in like the lore of Batman? It's kind of sad to say that they're kind of like a distant second to the
With Nolan.
yeah,
You know what? For the time, they were amazing movies. This was like what, like 1980 something, 88, something like that.
'89.
Yeah. So like for the time, for the director, and considering the fact that Michael Keaton was Batman, and right up until the premiere, everybody was like, "No, you've destroyed Batman. Why would you cast Michael Keaton?" And then after the premiere, everybody was like, "Oh my God, Keaton is Batman." And in reality, anybody can play Batman. You just put on a face mask and a rubber suit, and you're Batman. You do a gruff voice, and you're Batman.
Don't forget the voice.
Yeah. But it's really the character of Bruce Wayne who is really the mask in the whole situation. That
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's the character of Bruce Wayne. So Michael Keaton was good because he was kind of a stumble bum. So he kind of gave a persona that was so opposite of Batman. He was just clumsy. He was goofy. He was a little witty. He had personality, and that personality showed through a little bit through through the suit. I mean, when he smiled in that suit, that was kind of creepy and kind of cool all at the same time. But he had a duality there that was pretty good, and I don't think Val Kilmer had that duality, or Joel Schumacher didn't think he needed that duality, and um, George Clooney definitely did not have that duality. That he was showing up. They both showed up in black suits with black turtlenecks, and if I were Batman, that would be the last thing I would wear as Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Hang on. Let me turn off some alarms here.
Right on. But um, in the Nolan movies, again, Batman could have been played by anybody. The real character is the Bruce Wayne character, and they went, completely different route with it. They did a more of a like a Kardashian kind of rich playboy thing, which worked really well for the movies and for the character, and for what's his face's acting style, especially coming off of American Psycho, because his Bruce Wayne is almost like his Bateman character, just without the chainsaw.
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of, yeah. He's not as crazy as the American Psycho character, but he's kind of the Bruce Wayne character is. You can see him getting caught up in like what the guy's business card looks like, or what kind of suit he's wearing, or doing that entire of morning ritual that he has when he's talking about the soaps and the shampoos and the face masks and the hair products and all that kind of stuff. You can kind of see that Bruce Wayne doing that stuff if he wasn't Batman. If he was actually just a rich kid, if his parents survived, he would be kind of that guy.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. He probably wouldn't be killing people, probably, but you could see him doing all the other rich guy stuff that he did in American Psycho. So
American Psycho was such a weird movie.
it was. It was a good movie, but it definitely is weird. And they did a sequel to it. I don't know if you ever saw it. It starred the cutest chick from that '70s show who plays Meg on Family Guy. Uh,
Mila Kunis.
yeah, her. I can never pronounce her name, so I don't even try anymore. But it starred her, and it's not nearly as good. She's Bateman's cousin, I think, in the story of the movie. And I'm just like, nah, you didn't really need to do a sequel to that.
So it's just a family of psychos? Is that it?
So it would seem. I mean, you can kind of say that, um, a psycho, a mental disorder like that could be hereditary.
What was his mental disorder?
Um, well, that's up for debate because the end of the film is very ambiguous about whether he was actually who he said he was, and if he actually did any of the killings, which is kind of the best part about the whole film. Because like he's talking to people that he's like left messages for, and they're all like, "Oh, that was funny," And then he ends up talking to the actual guy who's named Bateman, and like he's all like, "Oh yeah, I heard you've been trying to pass yourself off at me. That's funny." Blah blah blah, and it's just like so it puts everything up in the air if it's all in his mind, especially the scene where he's trying to put the cat in the ATM.
Yeah, that's probably the red herring there.
Well, because like obviously the machine wasn't telling him to put the cat in the machine to feed the machine the cat to the machine. It obviously wasn't telling him that, but he thought it was. So it leads to, well, if he's hallucinating that, what else is he hallucinating? And
Yeah.
it's done so subtly that you don't think that until the very end when you're trying to figure everything out. And that's always my favorite kind of thing when they do ambiguity right. Like there are some people who do it who make things vague and confusing, but don't actually have an answer in their mind when they do it. And I think that's really where it stems from. If the writer or the director or even the actors know whether this guy was doing it for real or if it was all in his mind, then it plays out that way. And that you can kind of pick up on whether it is or it isn't real. if you have no clue about it when you're putting it together, then it's going to feel like you have no clue, and it's going to be just boring for the audience because they're never going to understand what you're trying to do. They're not going to want to understand what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why a movie like Metropolis is good because symbolism, kind of like, it, I don't know if it foreshadows deeper meaning or the end of a movie. That's what good symbolism is to me.
Yeah, and it sets up a lot of the tropes that you see in movies nowadays, and maybe this was just storytelling in general, but like there's the big fight scene at the end between the rich guy's kid and the mad scientist. It all came down to the love of a woman. It almost plays out like a CSI episode at the end, where they've got all the evidence now. They just have to go and get the guy, kind of a thing. So there's a lot of things that this movie did that is now kind of considered cliche, or is kind of considered a staple in storytelling, which is, I don't know if they pioneered this or if this is just how storytelling is even back then.
I think that's just sort of how storytelling is.
Yeah.
I think climaxes are usually just that much more, you know, uh, expansive or large scale than the rest of the films are, and so it's kind of like bottlenecking things until they blow up at the end.
True, true. But this is at the very least the first version of this that we can really see on film. Like, it may have happened in plays to a lesser extent because you're doing it on stage. We don't really know because we can't go back and see those plays, until time travel gets perfected. And a lot of the movies before this um, were done like stage plays, so you don't get quite the uh, grandiose feel at the end that this movie offers you. So this is like one of the first movies, and this was, I think, probably, it's not the oldest movie on Netflix, but it's one of the oldest movies on Netflix. So there's not much that comes before it that has this kind of staying power and this kind of following. So there's a testament there to the people who put this together.
What is it? 88 years old now.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. Dick Van Dyke is still older.
Well, Dick Van Dyke is no longer with us.
No, he is.
No, he died last year.
No, Dick Van Dyke is still alive.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of Dick Van Patten. I'm sorry. You're right.
Yep.
Yep.
Alive and kicking at 95.
Probably. He's a song and dance man, so he probably literally is still kicking.
You know, the irony in that is that he was not a dancer until Mary Poppins. He showed up on set and they said, "Well, we'll teach you how to do it while you're here."
Well, he did a lot of dancing on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Well,
Yes.
not a lot of dancing. He did some dancing because Mary Tyler Moore, the woman who played his wife, has a dance background, so she would do a lot of dancing on the show. Any chance they could get her to dance, they would give it to her. And then her and Dick Van Dyke would do routines together, and they'd do a little soft shoe, a little dance. So he had done some prior to Mary Poppins. But yeah, his background was comedy, slapstick.
I think it's the fact that he moves around so well for the slapstick that helped him
uh,
with the dancing.
pratfalls. I mean, pratfalls, you got to be pretty limber to not hurt yourself when you actually fall.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. So that led into him being, a good dancer. It's kind of like what's his face? Um, John Travolta, who started out his career kind of as a dancer, and that leads him into action films. So he can do choreography of action better than, your regular actor just because he has a dance background.
Yeah. I think he would probably be better than actual, like, he would do a fight scene better than an actual fighter.
Yeah,
Because a fighter is trained to actually hit you, whereas a dancer is trained to look like they're doing something.
exactly. Yes.
That is the irony. The best action heroes are probably dancers.
Yes. No, you're pretty close to the truth there. Like, because in movies, everything's done for the visual effect. It doesn't matter if it's accurate or not. Henceforth, the Fast and the Furious movies, because
Yeah.
there's so much that happens there that defies the law of physics. But how spectacular is it to watch? And as much as I hate those films and as much as I diss those films, I have seen every single one of them except for the last one.
Oh, the last one's it takes the dumbness to the next level.
Well, I haven't seen it because I don't want to spend the money on it, so I'm waiting for it to come to Netflix or at the very least to Redbox, which it probably has already come to Redbox, but I haven't gotten around to like renting it for the $1.50 that Redbox now charges you.
I thought it was on Netflix already.
Is it the last Fast and Furious movie?
Yeah, I know it's
Well,
not on DVD.
is it Fast 7? Furious
Fast and
7?
yeah,
Fast
Fast
Furious?
and, Fast and Furious 7.
Fast and Furious. Well, let me go over to Netflix and see if it's on there. If it is, I might watch it tonight.
Is that our movie for next week?
Well, you said the classics. Uh,
Well, for this one, we haven't come up with a theme for this month.
oh, I thought we did.
No, we're supposed to. Remember, we were supposed to all to get together and actually decide on it.
Oh, well, it does. Oh, I was just about to say it does not look like Mario is coming on, but huh. Hey,
Hey,
um, I think let me hang up on you and then call you back up in a second.
okay.
Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Here. He was calling me, and apparently it doesn't just add you all in, it just puts you on hold. So I was about to say that he wasn't going to show up. So let me add people to this call. Mario. Just in time, too, because now he gets to talk about his movie.
Hey, what up, buddy?
Hello?
Hey, you there?
Hey, bud.
Hey.
Hey,
Hey. Oh,
just in
what?
just in time, because I was about to say that it looks like you weren't going to show up.
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
A-
I
And then you called, which was also good because I ran out of stuff to talk about for my movie, and we've already talked about Jamal's movie, so now it's your turn.
really? You actually ran out of stuff to talk about?
About
No,
my film.
we've been talking like the whole time. It's just we ran out of things to say about it, each of our
Oh,
movies.
okay.
So Jamal's movie was The
The
Quiet Man?
Quiet. Yes.
Yes, starring
John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara.
John Wayne. I was gonna say Clint Eastwood. I knew that wasn't right. I didn't want to say that out loud.
It's close enough, though. I
Yeah.
mean, they're essentially the same era.
And then I
Quiet Man?
The Quiet Man, yeah. And then I made a mistake. The caveat was that it's supposed to be between 1940 and 1970, and I thought it was 1920 to 1970, so I watched Metropolis.
I'm sure you knew
Oh,
it's at. I'm sure you knew full well. You just decided Metropolis was a really good movie and wanted to see it anyway.
It is a really good movie. I mean, for its age, and it holds up really nice.
yeah.
It does not look
Okay.
like the last Fast and Furious movie is on Netflix yet. I'm not
Wait,
sure any of them are on Netflix.
I I thought number 4 was. I
Um,
know one of the Fast and Furious is. Well, it was on there.
it was. I think they took them down. I don't think they have.
Oh, okay.
Do you guys know that there was a Fast and the Furious back in the 1950s?
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
it had nothing to do with. It's not a remake. They just used the same title.
Well, no,
Yeah. Yeah.
they bought the title.
Did they really?
Yeah, for something like really cheap too.
Oh wow, there's a Tremors
It's
5.
There is a Tremors 5, and it has
Yeah. Dude, I
Ja-
think Tremors goes up to like 7.
Does it?
Yeah.
Was
And,
it?
like, it's ridiculous how much or how many
Well,
Tremor
well, no, it's
there are.
5 because this is a 2015 release, and it looks like it just went straight to Netflix. But it's got
Jamie
Michael Gross,
Kennedy.
Michael Gross, and Jamie Kennedy. Yeah.
Yep.
Who Michael Gross was in the first Tremors. He was the him and Reba McEntire played the people who were
The
the end of the
rednecks or
world
whatever.
doomsayers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they
Did
had the basement full of guns.
Well, he was in every single Tremor.
Michael Gross.
Yeah. Wasn't
Uh,
he?
I thought he was. Yeah.
Because I know he was in the I know he was in the Western one. He was obviously in the first one. I know he was in the Ass Blasters. And then he's in this. Yeah, dude, I think he's been in every single one.
Does that mean Reba McEntire dies in the first one or something?
She doesn't die in the first one, but I think they may have gotten a divorced or broken up or whatever.
Okay.
Because I don't think she comes back for any of them.
No, she's not in the other ones. Let's see, Bloodlines. Yeah, because I saw it the other day on Netflix, and I'm like, I want to watch it, but I don't know how badly I want to watch it. The giant man-eating gremlins are back and even deadlier than before, terrorizing the inhabitants of a South African wildlife reserve as they attack from below and above. Oh, so it looks like the ass blasters are back then. Oh, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it so hard this week. Wait, whose choice is it this week?
Is it yours, Alex?
I think it is mine.
Yeah, it's Alex. Yeah, it is.
Okay. I really need to write that down.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Okay. So, but go ahead. What was the movie that you watched, Mario?
Okay, so I actually, luckily, I didn't realize that we had a cap for how far back we went.
Okay.
So I just went back a couple of extra years, but it was in 1957. I just fucking blanked on it. 12 Angry Men. There we go.
Oh.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was 1957. It's with Henry Fonda. I can never get his name right.
Wasn't Jack Lemmon in it?
Yeah, Jack Lemmon was in it. Lee Cobb, who was like big for back then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a lot of really big names back in the day.
Jack Buckman.
Yeah, I mean, the guys they had on there, and the best part was they didn't have names. John Fielder, who was one of my favorite characters in that.
Yeah.
It was really cool that they didn't have names. You know, they were just Juror 1, Juror 2, and that's all they knew each other as, and that's all their characters were. And, you know, it's... Because I saw the remake of the movie. It was alright.
Did they give the characters names?
No, they didn't. They were still... I mean, they kept it as close as they could to the original 12 Angry Men.
Right.
But I enjoyed this one a lot more. It was... for the most part... okay, so for everybody who doesn't know what 12 Angry Men is... it's a movie about jurors who are solving a murder case. They're on trial right now, so they're the actual jurors. Each person on the jury, you know, each juror, they really try to make it seem like it's just a simple and shut case, whereas one of the guys who later turns out to be the protagonist, as much as you possibly could for being completely anonymous. But he's almost like the devil's advocate. He's seeing everything from a different angle, and he's slowly changing everyone's minds, and you later find out that everybody has their own personal reasons as to why they're trying to convict this young man that's on trial right now. And it's shot in 2 locations. And the second location isn't even really a different location. It's just the bathroom to the jury delegation room. And that's it. It's a drama. Yeah, it's a drama film for the most part. And goddamn, it's really impactful. It's really strong. You know, the first time I saw this one, I want to say it was about 4 years ago. It was like right after you left back home to go back home to Tucson, Alex. So it was like in the first year or so out here in California.
Right.
We had to watch for one of my classes. It was actually my film history class. We had to watch a movie from the 1950s to the 1960s. So I was like, oh, I've seen 12 Angry Men. I'll watch the original finally.
Mm-hmm.
Watched it, and I like it more. I like it more than the remake. Honestly, I don't even remember who's in the remake.
The remake kind of felt like a made-for-TV movie.
Yeah. It was almost like it was... what's that crime show that's been on for like 30 years?
CSI?
Oh, no.
Cops.
Shit.
Law and Order.
Law and Order. Thank you. That's what I was trying to think. I was like, it's the one with the law and... Yeah, it seemed like it was very Law and Order. This is the one that has Jack Lemmon in it.
Right.
And that one seemed very like it was over dramatized. Whereas the one, so the one that I'm talking about, the 12 Angry Men remake, was from 1997, and that one felt like it was more more about the case itself. Is what it seemed like. Just the way they shot it and the way the actors emphasized things. And it was more about the case than the actual characters. Whereas the 1957... Oh, I'm sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
Whereas the 1957 version was more about the men behind the case.
So the people who were in the remake are Courtney B. Vance, George C. Scott, James Gandolfini, Tony Danza, who must have been a big deal at the time, Jack Lemmon, Edward James Olmos, and speaking of CSI, William Peterson.
What year did that movie come out?
97.
Yeah.
And then they also have a judge, a guard, and the accused. So they must have been in the courtroom at one point. But yeah, no. In a great juxtaposition of my film, which was a very very early on in filmmaking history, a huge movie, lots of sets, an epic science fiction movie. Your movie is quite the opposite. A dozen or so years later, you have this movie that takes place in basically one place. That's almost shot like a play, and it's simple, it's intriguing, it's thought provoking, it's an amazing film, and it's all done very simply. So it's amazing how we can go from one film that's a, the Terminator of its time, if you will, to a film that is basically a stage play on screen.
That's so funny. Yeah, it is true.
Yeah.
What the hell has Edwin James almost done in the past couple of years?
He was on the movie, the TV show with the Cylons. Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica, yeah.
He was on that. He played the captain of the Battlestar Galactica.
I never really got into Battlestar Galactica.
I saw one episode. It was a two-parter. It was the one where they find the Pegasus, which I only watched that one because I was actually kind of a fan of the original show that came out like I think 79 and 80 was the 2 years that show was produced. And one of the episodes was where they find the Pegasus. And I remember that episode, and that's one of my favorite episodes. So I wanted to see what the remake's version of that story was. And it went on a little too long. It was a little boring to me. And maybe it's because I'm jumping into the middle of all this instead of watching it from the beginning on. But there was just something about it that didn't hold my interest as much as the original.
Yeah. Huh. I don't know if I'd ever watch. Yeah, I've seen a couple episodes of it, but it never really You know, there's some of those movies or some of the shows where you're like, oh, I can just put it on the background noise while
Yeah.
I'm doing like my stuff. This isn't even one of those shows that I could do that. It was very holy shit. That's right. He was in Miami Vice. I completely forgot about that.
Who was in Miami Vice?
Edward James Olmos. He was the lieutenant.
He was. He was a. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did forget about
Uh,
him.
Martin Castillo.
Did you know that Edward James almost portrayed a real person who went to jail, and I forget what the movie was called, but the guy who Edward James almost was portraying in the movie hated the movie so much and thought it was such slander against his character that he actually put a hit out on Edward James almost.
No fucking way.
Yes, give me a minute if I can find that movie.
Was it
Uh,
Chips?
yes, it was Chips.
Oh, knew it. Oh no, it was Stand and Deliver. That's what it was.
But it was like, and it all came down to basically a rape scene in the movie that the guy never got raped in prison, but they showed him being raped in the movie, and the guy was like,
Oh,
and the whole thing was that they were supposed to show the character at his lowest point, come back from that, and the guy's like, in prison, if you get raped, you don't come back from that. You're just a bitch.
yeah.
And he's like, I would die before I'd let that happen to me.
Funny. God, I want to know what that was now.
Okay, so prior to Battlestar Galactica, Edward James Olmos was in a movie called Beverly Hills Chihuahua.
Jesus Christ. Fuck it. Paycheck's a paycheck.
Which, oh no, I'm sorry, that wasn't before Battlestar. That was while they were doing it. So,
Oh. Oh, so it was probably like a one-time thing that he did.
yeah.
Yeah.
He was in the
Fucking
Weapon
Christ.
Man.
He got old fast.
Well, he always had that kind of pot-marked face. But, yeah, he's kind of like a golf ball.
Yeah, like he. Well, it's funny because like some of his older photos, when he's younger, he has a very distinguished, very Mexican look. Like he looks like he and Carlos Santana should be like. Oh, speaking of, there's a picture of him and Carlos Santana. but it seems like they're, it seems like he's very, almost like he was typecasted because of the way he looks.
Yeah.
Like every mobster movie, they get that one dude that's like typecasted. But like, he just got old fast. And it's not like it was bad, but he got more distinguished while he was getting older. Tony Danza. So I'm going through the 1997 version of my movie of all the actors, and I'm just like I haven't heard Tony Danza's name come up ever.
Yeah. Okay, so the movie I was talking about for Edward James Olmos, I think the movie was American Me, which is a Mexican-American mafia kingpin is released from prison,
Yes.
falls in love for the first time, and grows introspective about his gangster lifestyle. And a lot of the Mexican gangsters were displeased with how the movie portrayed their lifestyle, specifically the guy that he portrayed.
The dude that got raped.
Yeah, but he actually was issued a license to carry a concealed weapon by the Los Angeles Police Department because of all the death threats that he got.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fucked up when they give you the right to do that.
Oh, Edward James Olmos was also the director of that. But on one side, the two of the most dangerous street gangs in East LA called a truce to allow him to direct his movie on their turfs.
Huh.
So there was that.
That's funny because what was that movie? Training Day.
Yeah.
They did the same thing because they shot in. It was Blood Territory. They shot Blood Territory, and like all those dudes that were like standing out on the street that they were shooting, those dudes were all like Bloods. Like at that moment, they were still in the gangs. They were still doing shit. Like there's even stories of like some of the crew members and some of the cast members like some of the gangsters were going up to them and be like, "Hey man, like you got this. You know what do you like talking to them like they were a part of their gang because they looked the part so much.
Yeah.
So they actually had apparently what they had to do was get the extras and stuff. They had to get the ones that weren't in the gang to stay in their trailers or to put them off to a side just so they didn't get into any trouble.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit, that would suck. Actually, I had to do that. Bubba Hotep. That's a movie I haven't heard in a while.
Who is it, Bubba
Have you guys
Hotep?
heard of this movie?
Yeah, I've seen it. I used to have it on DVD.
Oh, okay. Jamal, have you seen this one?
Nope.
Oh my God, it's an amazing film.
Yeah.
It's it's got Bruce Campbell in it, and he plays Elvis, who switched places with an Elvis impersonator, and then the Elvis impersonator died, so he just kind of went with it because he wanted to be out of the limelight. And it takes place when he's in a retirement home, and he's with a guy who claims he's with a black guy, but the black guy claims to be President John F. Kennedy, that they transplanted Kennedy's brain into that guy's body, and they're fighting an ancient mummy.
Yeah.
I
I
can't. I
I
can't.
will see this movie now.
Oh, it's an amazing
Dude,
film.
it's so fucking good.
And they promised at the end of that film a sequel, and the sequel never came, and I'm very upset about that.
Now, they actually got into a lot of trouble because they said they wanted to.
Hmm.
Nobody was willing to rewrite or to write another one because they knew it would never be as good as the first one.
Oh yeah,
That's why they're like, we want to, but there's no way we can make a sequel out of it because it couldn't live up to the hype of the original Bubba Hotep.
yeah,
Bruce Campbell. I'm gonna look up Bruce Campbell shit right now because I haven't seen his name in a while.
dude. He is going on October 31st on Halloween. They're premiering his new TV show, The Evil Dead.
Really?
You did not hear about that?
No.
Oh my God, and it looks fantastic.
No,
Talk
I
about
heard that it was supposed to be good. I didn't know it was coming out already.
Yeah, this Halloween, and
Oh,
he has slipped back into that part like you and I would put on a pair of slippers,
Yeah.
and it's just amazing. You watch the trailer of it, and he is Ash up and down, and
Yeah.
there's this one part where like he's there. It's obviously done with Sam Raimi and the whole crew because they're driving around in the classic, and there's one part where they're in the front seat and Ash is all in his gear, in his garb, and he's with some Mexican kid. He's with like two or three other people, and he's like, "This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk into this house. I'm going to let the boomstick do the talking. If I get in any trouble, you come in with your bottle." And the kid holds up this broken bottle that's like all neck and maybe like an inch or two of jagged pieces.
Jesus.
And he looks at Ash and he's like, "I think you used up the bottle." And then they cut to a scene of him in the back seat just stabbing the hell out of a deadite in the neck for like,
Oh
a
god.
minute. And then it cuts back to them in the front seat and Ash looks at him. He's like, "No, man, it's good. I was just sharpening it for you."
That's fucking funny.
And I'm like, "Oh my God, I have to see it based on that one scene alone." And it's just it looks like an apology for the crappy ass Evil Dead movie that they just let be made.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Like
I never saw that one because it looks like a piece of shit.
it, it's a halfway decent, low budget horror film set in the woods. It just has nothing to do with Evil Dead, really, other than tree rape. I mean,
Yeah.
like I was hoping that the lead character, even though it was a girl, would be named Ash, and then they just say Ashley, because I think that's what Ash's real name is anyway. I think his real name is Ashley, isn't it?
Probably, honestly.
Yeah, but
I honestly don't know that one.
yeah, but like it would have been nice to have it be a little more like the original movie, and it wasn't enough like it to make it feel like an Evil Dead movie. because Evil Dead had like a little bit of wit to it. It had serious moments, but it had some wit to it, and I think a lot of that
Yeah.
came from from the director and from Bruce Campbell. So,
Uh, let's
but
see. What
but
year
yeah,
was the original Evil Dead? I don't remember.
isn't that 82, 83, something like that?
I thought, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so I found Army of Darkness. That was 92.
But uh,
Uh,
but yeah, Bruce Campbell, like I saw him talk at one of the conventions 2 years ago.
yeah,
Um,
81.
and 81. Okay, so 2 years ago I saw him talk at a convention, and every convention he gets asked, you know, would you be Ash again? Would you do an Evil Dead movie again?
Yeah.
And he looks out and he's like, if you can convince Sam Raimi to write a script, you let him know, I'll do it, sight unseen.
No way.
Yeah,
You're right. It is short for Ashley.
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no,
Ashley Ash J. Williams is his full name in the series.
really, I didn't know he had a last name.
Yeah, apparently.
But yeah, he's still working as a as a stock boy or as a sales clerk in some box store.
Oh, what was the name of it?
S Smart.
S Smart. That's right. Shop
Shop
Smart.
Smart. Shop
Shop
S
S
Smart.
Smart. Okay, so for my birthday, my girl because I'm a sound mixer, and i.e., a lot of times I'll do sound mixing by myself. So I'm running my sound mixer as well as my boom. So my girlfriend actually got me a Evil Dead shirt, and it's a picture of Bruce Campbell Ash standing with a pile of dead zombies underneath him, and he's holding a shotgun up, and then the words on it say, "This is my boomstick." And I'm
Nice.
like, I need to wear that next time I'm doing a gig. I'm gonna, I'm totally gonna rewatch Evil Dead's.
They're good movies.
Yeah.
Almost as good as 12 Angry Men.
Ah, I see what you did there.
Yeah, I tried to bring it
Hey,
back
you know
around.
what? It's October right now. What if we do horror movies, like cult horror movies?
Oh, that's what I wanted to do because of Halloween. I did want to do something more Halloween themed for our theme, but I was going to say that the movie should be about sluts because that's really what Halloween is about anymore.
So, like Barbarella.
I tried to watch that film once and I couldn't get through it.
I saw that movie all the way through. It's
Emmanuel in
painful.
Space.
Huh?
Emmanuel in Space.
Emmanuel in Space?
Yeah, it's an old 50s one. It was basically just a girl in a bikini flying around space.
I that actually doesn't sound well. I mean, it sounds bad, but that sounds like it would fit in with my idea. But I was thinking there's this movie called Nurse, which is a horror film about a nurse who goes around killing people. I assume she's a nurse. She's at least dressed like a nurse, but she's dressed in the skimpy Halloween style nurse dress costume with high heels.
Leave it to you to find a movie like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. God damn it. Was it Emmanuel in Space? I fucking can't spell Emmanuel, apparently. I spelled Emmanuel.
Oh, the funny part is that's how I would have spelled it.
Oh, yeah, I know you would have. That's the worst part.
I think it ends in an E-L-L-E. I haven't seen the
Oh,
movie, but
yeah, you're right.
but I've heard, I hear that's what it's about.
Well, it is an American erotic science fiction Oh, Jesus Christ, it was a TV series.
Oh,
Never
what?
Produced for
mind.
cable. And, you know the best part? It was syndicated.
In the 1950s?
No, in the 40s. This is 94, dude.
Really?
This wasn't in the 50s. It is
Yeah.
softcore
I must be thinking of
pornography.
something else. Barbarella, was it? Was it
Barbarella
Barbarella?
was
It
in the 50s, yeah.
Okay, Barbarella's the one I'm
No,
thinking of.
Barbarella was in like the 60s, wasn't it?
Maybe something like that. It was color. I know that much.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so I think this is where you're getting screwed up, Jamal, because the character created by Emmanuel Arsan, Arsan, in the 1960s
Ah,
and is featured in a dozen softcore films. Whereas this one,
why is it? Why is it? Why is she showing up in sci-fi then?
So what you're saying is that somebody took softcore porn and turned it into a TV show in the 90s.
yeah, essentially,
Huh.
yeah, apparently it was made in the 60s and then syndicated in the 90s.
Maybe it was on like the Playboy channel or something.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so the episodes are called Emmanuel
Does
First
Dallas?
Contact. Does Uranus. It's Emmanuel First Contact is episode 1. Episode 2 is A World of Desire, followed by A Lesson in Love, and then Concealed Fantasy, which probably, dildos. A
A woman
Time to
pretending to be a
Dream,
guy.
One Final Fling, and then number 7 is The Meaning of Love.
Aww. Great big cock.
Just all up in that booty. Jeez. Part of me wants to watch this, and another part of me was like, it's kind of gross. Oh, don't get me wrong, I'm gonna watch it, but I'm okay.
Why? It's softcore. It is the film equivalent of giving you blue balls. Because it's not actually giving you the
Yeah,
it's
it
not
doesn't
porn.
get a finish.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first episode. Here's the synopsis. Emmanuel, a hedonistic young woman, finds herself teaching the ways of sexuality to a crew of aliens who land on Earth.
A crew of aliens.
Crew. Oh wow, she's actually had a pretty prolific acting career too.
Did you see the trailer for Jungle Book?
I didn't know there was one.
Oh, it's out too. Uh, I love the fact that they got Christopher Walken to voice the monkey.
Nice.
Bill Murray is the voice of Baloo.
So, speaking of Christopher Walken, last year, I forget what holiday it was for. They did a live production on like CBS or something of
Peter
Peter
Pan.
Pan,
Yeah.
where Christopher Walken played Captain Hook.
I never got around to seeing that, but
It's not good.
There you go.
Christopher Walken is pretty old, and he doesn't dance so well anymore. He doesn't move around so well. So all the other pirates had to really dance around him while he just kind of shuffled around the stage.
Well, what was that?
This was a live production of Hook on like CBS or something last Thanksgiving, I think it was.
Oh god.
And they did a movie, a live production the year before that. I forget what it was. Maybe like Mary Poppins or something.
What are these pictures you just sent me?
Those are the production stills, or some of the promotional stills from the movie Nurse.
Oh, I got you. That last one's actually really cool.
Yeah, I know, right?
So I would actually put that up as my wallpaper. That's kind of cool. I think.
I was at the dollar store yesterday or the other day, and they have like those racks of the glasses. They're not prescription, but they're like they magnify.
Oh, like the reading glasses and stuff.
Yeah, and I put a pair on, and I'm like, and they look like raper glasses, and I put a pair on, I'm like, what do you think of these? And Heather's like, ugh. And then she thinks about it for a second. She's like, can you actually see in those? And I lift up my phone, and then I take the glasses off and look at my phone, and I'm like, oh shit, I can actually see better.
Oh god. It's so
I-
sobering fact, isn't it?
It is. I did not realize how bad my eyes got, and like I could still see pretty good, I mean, it's just like a little fuzzy. So like I don't know what the grading scale is, how it actually works, but there's like a +1 or +1.25 or whatever.
Yeah. That's essentially how it is.
Yeah, so like the first one I put on was like a 1.75, and I went down to a 1. And like if I had something like just a 0.75, I could probably buy those and use those as reading glasses, but I don't really want to admit to myself that I need them. See, I need glasses anyway because I'm farsighted or I'm nearsighted, and I always have been. So like anything farther away than the TV is kind of blurry. But I don't wear my glasses because fuck that.
Wait, you have glasses?
I have them, I just never wear them.
Oh, I didn't even know that actually.
Yeah, see, I like my designer sunglasses too much to pop back and forth between glasses and sunglasses. So I'm just like, fuck the glasses.
Dude, why don't you get LASIK?
I could do that, but I don't know how much that costs. Although every time I get pulled over, the cop. This has never happened to me up until like in the last year. Like I get pulled over a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not the best driver in the world. And
Yep, I can attest to that.
for the longest time, I never got the Firebird registered in Tucson. So its registration was like 4 years out of date. So I get pulled over all the
Jesus.
time for that. I would never get ticketed for it, but I get pulled over for that.
How did you not get ticketed?
I think I got pulled
Did you
over.
blow the cop?
No, I think I got pulled over like 6 times for it, and I think I got ticketed once for not having registration. And when I went to court, the prosecutor was all like, "Yeah, we'll just throw that away. All we really care about is that you didn't have insurance on you at the time." I'm like, "Well, I got my insurance card here. Okay, you're good to go."
Jesus.
I'm like, "Why even bother pulling me over for that then?" But so
Ticket's a ticket, that's why.
yeah, so so in the past year, the cops, when they look at my license, see that it says that I need glasses or some sort of corrective lenses, and then they'll
Yeah.
ask, are you wearing contacts? And the first time a cop said that, I'm like, no, I don't wear contacts. Contacts are dumb. Who puts tiny glasses on their eyeballs? I don't say all that. I just say, no, I'm not wearing contacts. But that's the monologue that goes on in my head afterwards.
Of course.
And the guy's like, oh, because it says here you need corrective lenses. Why aren't you wearing them? I could ticket you for that. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, I got the LASIK? Oh, well, you should get that fixed. I'm like, yeah, I know. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Well, if somebody pulls you over, so essentially what he's saying is if somebody who pulls you over cares about their job, they'll ticket you for not wearing
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, well, hey, how would you know if I was wearing contact lenses? You wouldn't know. How do you know that I didn't get the LASIK and I'm just too lazy to change my license? You don't know that. And really, I can see.
Contacts are very easily are very easily spotted.
Yeah, I can see well enough that if I take the test now at the DMV, I could probably pass it and not have to worry about that endorsement. But that has been on my license since I first got it because I was dumb enough to actually wear glasses at the time.
Smooth.
Yeah, I know.
Smooth, buddy.
But like I said, I get pulled over a lot, and it's just been in the last year that cops have looked at that and questioned it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of telling you how desperate Tucson is for money, that their only revenue comes through traffic violations right now.
Jesus. That doesn't surprise me.
No, just think if they were allow tax breaks for movies to come in and film here, we could have such an influx of money. But no, it's technically called Nurse 3D, or it was in 3D at one point. So be prepared for shit just flying at the screen for no good reason. I can't envision Nurse being the kind of groundbreaking film that will do 3D right by showing the texture of things, of her outfit, or real good depth of field of like hospital hallways or things like that. No, it's going to be shit just flying at the screen, jump scares and that.
Yeah, what if it's just like bad boobs coming at your face?
Well, boobs coming at your face are always good, no matter how bad they are.
Agreed.
Yeah, all right, I'll give you that.
Yeah. Who was it? I think it was Ron White who said, when you see one set of boobs, you kind of want to see them all.
That's actually Jeff Foxworthy.
Was it Jeff Foxworthy?
Yeah.
I know it was one of those white collar guys, and then he goes on to say that even if it's an old dirty biker chick, that she has to roll him up with a ham key afterwards. You still want to see him. You just want to see him fall to the ground. All right, so the dogs are about to bark at something. So let's go ahead and say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
And head on over to mof.ninja so you can learn more about us and the films we watch.
They're not entirely too great in all honesty, but they're entertaining.
Yeah. Oh, we got Serious Deluge finally.
Good night, everybody, on that case.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Join the makers each week as they discuss film, TV, and pop culture. To learn more about them, go to mof.ninja. This is Jason Statham saying goodbye.